Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome into the second episode of our workshop on management of diabetes mellitus in Ramadan. Today we shall see what are the physiological impacts of Ramadan fasting on human body. We enlisted 6 effects of Ramadan fasting on human physiology, and today we shall dive deep into these 6 impacts, and we shall learn that why we should be careful about diabetic patients who want to fast during the month of Ramadan, what physiological changes can impact their body, and if there is any risk to them, how this risk is calculated, and how we shall be sure that our patients may keep fast or may not. So let's go to the discussion on physiological impact of Ramadan fasting on human body. So we are in the second episode of our workshop on Ramadan and diabetes. I had mentioned in the last episode that today we shall discuss the physiological changes in the human body because of the fasting during Ramadan. And we enlisted a couple of changes, and these include first, changes to energy balance and weight. Second, changes to circadian and hormonal rhythms. Third is the insulin sensitivity, what happens to insulin sensitivity in fasting during Ramadan. Fourth physiological impact is on glucose variability in Ramadan fasting in diabetes. Then we shall discuss other medical considerations in relevance to Ramadan fasting and diabetes. And at the end, we shall discuss the effects of Ramadan fasting on mental well-being. So take the first aspect, that is the changes to energy balance and weight during Ramadan. With major changes to meal times and content of the meal and sleeping times, there are also changes in activity patterns during Ramadan. So we see changes in the meal time, changes in the content of the meal, changes in the sleeping times, as well as changes in the activity patterns. Daytime and overall activity are reduced, we know that, although there does not appear to be significant changes in resting metabolic rate. Though the daytime and overall activity is changed, but the resting metabolic rate remains the same. As sleeping time also decreases, we know that there is no significant change in total 24 hours daily energy expenditure. There is on average a reduction in total daily energy intake and a net weight loss of around 1 kg by the end of Ramadan. This is by and large in each and every one. Though weight loss is not a universal outcome, and weight change with Ramadan shows a great deal of inter-individual variability, but by and large we see 1 kg loss Coming to the second component of the physiological impact, that is the changes in circadian and hormonal rhythms. Epigenetic studies have shown alterations occurring to clock circadian rhythm, which is controlling genes during Ramadan. These can affect hormones, which can in turn affect insulin sensitivity and thus glucose levels. These hormones include cortisol, leptin, adiponectin, ghrelin, growth hormone, and testosterone. First, take the cortisol hormone. Generally, rises in cortisol are associated with rises in blood glucose levels. We know that. Typical high morning to evening cortisol ratio is reduced from 2.55 to 1.22 during Ramadan fasting. So, this is one impact of the Ramadan fasting on the cortisol rhythm. The second hormone, the leptin, higher leptin in the morning, probably reflecting mealtime changes. So, it has been noted that the leptin levels are higher in the morning. Evening levels are, however, similar to that of pre-Ramadan. So, in the Ramadan, the leptin levels are high in the morning, but in the evening, the levels remains the same. The other hormone is that of adiponectin. Higher levels of adiponectin has been found, and these are associated with increased insulin sensitivity. Adiponectin levels decrease in the morning days of Ramadan, but there is conflicting information in the evening. Some studies proclaiming an increase and others a decrease. So we know that the higher the adiponectin, higher is the insulin sensitivity. And in Ramadan, in the morning days, the adiponectin levels decrease, but in the evening, the levels, they are conflicting results. Some studies says the adiponectin levels increases, others say it decreases. The another hormone is that of ghrelin. No differences in ghrelin levels among individuals of a healthy weight during Ramadan fasting. So, no difference has been found. But in contrast, overweight and obese individuals show a marked reduction in ghrelin in the last week of Ramadan. So, these are the normal changes or impact of Ramadan on the ghrelin levels. The growth hormones. The levels of both morning and evening growth hormones may decrease during Ramadan fasting. And then the testosterone, a modest reduction in testosterone in men has been found towards the end of Ramadan period. The third aspect or third point is that of the insulin sensitivity. What happens to insulin sensitivity during Ramadan fasting? An increase in insulin resistance in Ramadan fasting has been shown in several studies, that insulin resistance increases. As the Ramadan daytime fasting hours progress, there is gradual shift from carbohydrates to lipids as the main source of fuel. We know this. This, together with insulin deficiencies, can lead to excessive glycogen breakdown and increased gluconeogenesis among people with diabetes. Eating large quantities at and after iftar can cause further rise in blood glucose levels. As a result, the risks facing people with diabetes are heightened during Ramadan. These include hypoglycemia, hyperglycemia, diabetic ketoacidosis, dehydration, and thrombosis. The fourth effect is glucose variability and Ramadan fasting in diabetes. In healthy individuals without diabetes, data generated in continuous glucose monitoring, that is CGM studies in Ramadan, report stable blood glucose levels. At iftar, a modest rise in interstitial glucose and therefore blood glucose is observed. But this increase remains within normal ranges. This is the blue is the non-Ramadan period, and this is the 24 hours daytime, and this is the during Ramadan, the red one is iftar time. So the two lines, the two worms, they almost coincide with one another. In diabetic patients on insulin who are on insulin and sulfonylureas, a modest rise in blood glucose is observed at iftar. In diabetic patients who are on multiple antidiabetics medications, an increase in the mean amplitude of glycemic excursions, that is the MAGE, has been observed in the early stages of Ramadan compared to that of before Ramadan, but not in late Ramadan and post-Ramadan periods. An important concern among fasting individuals on insulin or its secretagogues is hypoglycemia during the daytime hours. We know that. And this is the blue is again the non-fasting individuals, and the red is the fasting individuals, diabetics fasting individuals. And as they reach towards the iftar, the sugar levels goes down, and after iftar it really has a surge jump, and then it becomes normalized to some degree. The fifth component is that of the other medical conditions in relevance to Ramadan fasting and diabetes. We know diabetic patients with comorbidity conditions may show additional impacts of Ramadan fasting. For example, hypothyroidism and its treatment can be affected by changes to meal times. Thyroxine absorption can be affected and lead to suboptimal control of hypothyroidism. The best time to take thyroxine is later at night, provided that no additional heavy food is eaten between iftar and late night hours. Other conditions affected by Ramadan fasting include hyperlipidemias, hypertension, chronic kidney disease, ischemic heart disease, and vitamin D deficiencies. For some of these, only an adjustment of timing of medication during Ramadan fasting is needed. For others, such as chronic kidney disease and ischemic heart disease, advice from a specialist and, if available, multidisciplinary management is recommended. Now, the last component, the last impact is that of effects of Ramadan fasting on mental well-being. Ramadan fasting provides an opportunity to self-reflect on aspects of life that need improving. The ability to grow spiritually through prayers, a time where there is an emphasis placed on good deeds, and a chance to spend more time with loved ones and people within the community. We know that. Ramadan fasting lowers depression, anxiety, stress on one hand, and improves memory, overall mental well-being, self-acceptance, self-sufficiency, social relations, and personal growth on the other. Other studies have found the opposite. A systemic review found Ramadan fasting to be associated with a negative impact to mental well-being. People with pre-existing feelings of depression might also experience poorer glycemic control when fasting during Ramadan. And this is a very beautiful summary of the physiology of fasting during Ramadan. The lifestyle changes occurring when fasting during Ramadan is that sleeping schedule is changed, the meal plans and diet is changed, the physical activity patterns are changed, there is a reduction of vices such as smoking, and of course, the medication adjustments are required. The physical and mental benefits of fasting during Ramadan is that sense of fulfillment in proportion in all aspects of Ramadan. Then there is improvements in weight or BMI. Then there is improvements in self-control and ability to resist temptations. Of course, there is greater sense of empathy with those less fortunate. There's participation in Sunnah practices for greater spiritual benefits. There's greater sense of community and an opportunity to strengthen relationships. There is reducing potentially harmful vices such as smoking for greater physical and mental well-being. And then there is potential adverse physical and mental aspects of fasting during Ramadan, and there is sleep deprivation and disruption of circadian rhythms leading to an increase in fatigue and reduction in cognition. Yes, it may be there. Glucose excursion causing feeling of being unwell, then greater feelings of lethargy, then heightened feelings of fear for diabetes related complications, then temporary changes in weight, and of course, short term feelings of stress, anxiety, irritability, and agitation. Then comes the aspect of risk stratification of individuals with diabetes for fasting during Ramadan. Risk stratification is an important step in the process of providing guidance to individuals with diabetes seeking to fast during Ramadan. It forms the basis of all subsequent guidance and decision making. And the elements for risk calculation and suggested risk score for people with diabetes mellitus that seek to fast during Ramadan. This is very important topic, and we shall discuss all this in the tomorrow in our third lecture. So be with me. Tomorrow's episode is very, very important, where we will learn how to categorize the diabetic patients in high risk, moderate risk, and low risk, depending upon these risk factors, how these risk factors are given marks, weightage, and how the risk is calculated, and then how we proceed in advising our diabetic patients whether they should fast or don't fast. So see you tomorrow in the very important episode of this workshop, the third episode. Till then, take care. Khuda Hafiz.